The silence in the house was not merely an absence of sound, it was a physical weight, pressing against Eleanor Vance's chest every time she woke up in the morning. It was a heavy, suffocating blanket that had settled over the Connecticut estate 5 years ago, the day Arthur took his last breath. Eleanor sat in the high-backed velvet armchair in the library, the leather-bound book in her lap unopened. The dust motes dancing in the shafts of afternoon sunlight seemed to be the only things alive in the room. At 74 years old, Eleanor was a woman of substantial means, formidable intelligence, and a legacy that spanned oceans. Yet, in this house, she was simply a widow. A ghost haunting her own life. Arthur had been the heart of this home. His laughter had filled the hallways, his booming voice had commanded respect without ever needing to raise itself. When he died, the light went out. But Eleanor had not retreated into grief entirely. While the world saw a mourning wife, the business world saw a shark. She had taken the helm of Vance Maritime Holdings, the small charter business Arthur had started, and she had steered it through storms that would have capsized lesser companies. Under her guidance, the company had evolved into the Majesty Cruise Line. 12 ships, global routes, millions in revenue. She was the CEO, the majority shareholder, the vision. But she wore no crown. She operated under the umbrella of Poseidon Ventures, a holding company known only to the board of directors and the captains of her fleet. To the public, she was a private investor. To her family, she was just mom. That was the way she wanted it. Arthur had taught her that money changed people. It turned love into transaction and respect into entitlement. She had watched her business partners turn on each other over percentages and dividends. She vowed never to let that happen in her home. She wanted her daughter, Linda, to love her for her warmth, her wisdom, her presence, not for the trust fund that awaited her. But love, Eleanor was learning, was not a guaranteed return on investment. She looked at the photograph on the desk. Linda, age 10, missing a front tooth, grinning broadly as she held up a sandcastle on a beach that looked nothing like the Caribbean. Where had that girl gone? In her place was a woman of 45 who checked her watch during hugs and whose eyes scanned Eleanor's house not with nostalgia, but with appraisal. The phone on the desk rang, shattering the silence. Eleanor jumped slightly, her hand fluttering to her chest. She picked up the receiver. "Hello, Mom, it's Linda." The voice was crisp, efficient. "No, how are you? No, how was your week?" "Hello, Linda. I was just thinking about you." "Were you? That's good. Look, Robert and I have been talking. We think you need a vacation. You've been rattling around in that big house too long. It's not healthy." Eleanor tightened her grip on the phone. "I'm fine, dear. I have my garden, my books." "You have isolation," Linda interrupted. "We've booked a cruise. The Ocean Majesty. 7 days, Caribbean. It leaves from Miami next week. We've got the suites all sorted. You just need to pack and meet us there." It wasn't a suggestion. It was an order wrapped in concern. Eleanor knew that tone. It was the tone Linda used when she wanted something but didn't want to ask directly. "The Ocean Majesty?" Eleanor asked, a small smile touching her lips. "That's a lovely ship." "It's okay," Linda dismissed. "Nothing too fancy, but it gets the job done. We figured since you're on a fixed income, we'd treat you. Don't worry about the cost. We'll handle the big stuff. You just bring your clothes." Fixed income. The lie slipped out so easily. Linda believed Eleanor was surviving on Social Security and a small pension. Eleanor had allowed the myth to persist for years. She drove a 10-year-old sedan. She wore clothes from department stores. She lived in the house she and Arthur had bought 40 years ago, never upgrading to the penthouse she could afford. "That's very generous of you, Linda," Eleanor said softly. "Well, family looks out for family," Linda said, though her voice lacked warmth. "So, it's settled. We'll see you in Miami. Don't be late. Robert hates waiting." The line went dead. Eleanor held the receiver for a moment, listening to the dial tone. She looked out the window at the garden Arthur had planted. The roses were in bloom, vibrant red against the green foliage. "They think I'm weak," she whispered to the empty room. "They think I'm helpless." She stood up, her joints creaking slightly, and walked to the safe hidden behind the bookshelf. She spun the dial, the mechanical clicks echoing in the quiet. Inside, there were no stacks of cash. There were documents, deeds, stock certificates, the founding papers of Poseidon Ventures. She picked up the black key card embedded with a gold chip. The master key. It opened every door on the Ocean Majesty, including the bridge. "If you want a vacation, Linda," Eleanor said, placing the card in her purse. "You'll get one, but you won't get what you expect." She wasn't going on this trip to be pampered. She was going on an inspection. And if what she heard from the staff rumors was true, that her daughter and son-in-law had been leveraging her name for discounts, complaining about service, treating waiters like servants, then this vacation would be a turning point. She closed the safe. The silence of the house didn't feel so heavy anymore. It felt like the calm before the storm. The Miami port was a cacophony of noise and color. Taxis honked, luggage carts rattled over concrete, and thousands of passengers milled about in a state of excited chaos. The Ocean Majesty loomed over them all, a white leviathan against the blue sky, its hull gleaming in the sun. Eleanor arrived in her old sedan, parking it in the long-term lot. She wore a simple navy blue dress and comfortable walking shoes. Her hair was pulled back in a sensible bun. She looked like what she was, a grandmother on a budget. She spotted Linda and Robert near the terminal entrance. Robert was wearing a linen suit that cost more than Eleanor's car, sunglasses perched on his nose despite the cloud cover. Linda was adjusting the strap of her designer handbag, looking impatient. "There she is," Robert said, spotting Eleanor. "Right on time. Surprising." "Mom." Linda waved, not moving from her spot. "Hurry up. The line is moving." Eleanor walked toward them, her cane tapping rhythmically on the pavement. Her hip gave a dull throb with every step, a reminder of the surgery last year. She ignored it. Pain was just information. "Hello, Robert." "Hello, Linda," Eleanor said, reaching them. "You look tired, Mom," Linda said, kissing her cheek quickly. "Did you sleep okay? You know, stress affects the elderly differently." "I slept fine, thank you." "Good. Here's the plan," Robert said, taking charge. He didn't offer to take her bag. "We check in, go straight to the suite, drop the bags, and then hit the buffet. I want to scope out the dining options before the crowds get there." "We have the Grand Owner's suite," Linda added, her voice dripping with pride. "Top deck, private plunge pool, butler service. It's going to be amazing." Eleanor nodded. "That sounds lovely. Just remember," Linda lowered her voice, leaning in. "If anyone asks, you're staying in the standard cabin we booked for you. We don't need people knowing we're supporting you financially. It might look like we're showing off, or worse, they might think you're a burden and try to sell you timeshares or something." "I understand," Eleanor said calmly. "I'll keep to myself." "Good girl," Linda patted her arm condescendingly. "Come on." They moved into the terminal. The air conditioning was blasting, a relief from the humid heat outside. The check-in hall was vast, filled with counters manned by uniformed staff. The Majesty Line logo, a golden trident, was emblazoned on the wall. Eleanor felt a surge of pride. She had chosen that logo. She had approved the uniform designs. She had signed the contracts for this terminal. But today, she was invisible. They reached the front of the line. The check-in agent was a young man named Kevin. He looked tired but professional. "Reservation under Henderson," Robert announced, sliding his platinum card across the counter. "Grand Owner's suite. Priority boarding." Kevin smiled politely. "Certainly, Mr. Henderson. Let me just pull up your reservation." His fingers moved across the keyboard. Eleanor watched his face. She knew the look. It was the look of someone finding a discrepancy. "Mr. Henderson," Kevin said, his smile tightening. "I see the reservation here. However, there seems to be a note on the account. The Grand Owner's suite was initially requested, but the booking was modified to a standard ocean view suite, cabin 402, on the lower deck. This was confirmed 3 days ago." Robert's head snapped up. "What? That's impossible. We paid for the owner's suite." "The system shows the modification came from your email address," Kevin said, turning the screen slightly. "See. Confirmed by l.henderson@mail.com. Linda flushed red. I must have clicked the wrong thing. That was a mistake. Fix it. We want the suite we paid for." Kevin shook his head apologetically. "I'm sorry, ma'am. The Grand Owner's suite is currently reserved for the ship's executive oversight team. It's not available for guest booking during this voyage. The Ocean View suite is what is confirmed. Executive oversight, Robert scoffed. Who needs oversight on a vacation? Look, just upgrade us. We're willing to pay the difference. The suite is not for sale, sir. It's reserved. Linda spun around to face Eleanor. Her eyes were blazing. This is your fault. Eleanor blinked. My fault. You were supposed to confirm the booking. Linda hissed. I told you to call and make sure everything was perfect. You probably forgot, didn't you? You're getting forgetful, Mom. It's happening faster than we thought. Linda, I didn't make the booking, Eleanor said, her voice steady. You told me you handled it all. Don't lie to me. Linda's voice rose, drawing stares from nearby passengers. You always do this. You act helpless, so we have to fix your messes. Now look, we're stuck in a lower deck cabin because you can't manage a phone call. Robert stepped in, placing a hand on Linda's shoulder, but his eyes were cold as he looked at Eleanor. Let's not make a scene. We'll take the room they gave us. But Mom, you're going to have to make this up to us. You have that equity in your house, don't you? You can take out a line of credit to cover the difference for the suite upgrade once we're on board. We deserve this vacation. Eleanor felt a cold knot form in her stomach. They hadn't invited her out of love. They had invited her because they expected her to pay for their upgrades, to be their ATM on the high seas. And now, when the room wasn't to their liking, she was the scapegoat. I'm not upgrading anyone, Eleanor said quietly. We will stay in the rooms we have. Linda laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. Don't be selfish, Mom. It's 1 week. What are you going to do with all that money anyway? You're just going to leave it to us eventually. Might as well enjoy it now. Kevin cleared his throat, looking uncomfortable. If you could step aside, please. There are other guests waiting. As they moved away from the counter, Linda grabbed Eleanor's arm, her nails digging into her skin. You're embarrassing me, Mom. Act your age, or so help me, I'll leave you here. Just remember, you're dependent on us for this trip. Don't forget your place. My place. The words echoed in Eleanor's mind as they boarded the ship. If only they knew. If only they knew who truly owned the steel beneath their feet, the engines that propelled them forward, and the very air conditioning cooling their entitled sweat. Cabin 402 was exactly as advertised, quiet, small, and functional. It had a porthole that looked out onto the waterline, meaning the view was mostly ocean spray and the occasional fish. The bed was narrow, the desk cramped. Robert threw his suitcase onto the bed. Unbelievable. Look at this space. You can't even turn around. It's cozy, Eleanor said, placing her small carry-on in the corner. It's a closet, Linda snapped. She walked to the porthole and wiped the glass. And look at this. Salt stains. Hasn't this been cleaned? She pressed the button for the steward. Within minutes, a knock came at the door. A young woman named Maria stood there, wearing the crisp white uniform of the housekeeping staff. Yes, ma'am, Maria asked politely. This room is dirty, Linda announced, pointing at the porthole. I want it cleaned again. And bring us extra towels. And why is the soap so small? We need the premium brand. Maria nodded, though her eyes showed a flicker of strain. I apologize, ma'am. I will have someone bring extra towels. The soap is standard for this cabin category. I don't care about categories. Linda shouted. I want what I paid for. Go get your manager. Maria swallowed hard. I will speak to my supervisor. Do that, Linda said, slamming the door. Eleanor watched the interaction in silence. She knew Maria, not personally, but she knew her type. Hardworking, immigrant, sending money home to support a family. Eleanor had instituted a policy that all staff were to be treated with dignity. Zero tolerance for abuse. Linda, Eleanor said softly. She was just doing her job. Don't start, Mom, Linda warned, turning on her. You always take their side. They're staff. They're here to serve us. If we don't demand quality, they get lazy. It's basic management. Management is about respect, Eleanor countered. Respect is earned, Robert chimed in, pouring himself a drink from the minibar. And right now, we aren't getting what we paid for. So we demand. It's the only language they understand. Eleanor walked to the small bathroom. She looked at herself in the mirror. The lines on her face were deeper than she remembered. But her eyes were sharp. "You're right about one thing, Robert," she said to the reflection. "Respect is earned, and so is consequence." She opened her purse and took out her phone. She didn't call security. She didn't call the front desk. She dialed a number she had memorized 20 years ago. "Captain Thorne's office," a voice answered. "This is Vance," Eleanor said. "Poseidon 1. There was a pause on the other end. Then the voice changed, becoming instantly deferential. "Ma'am, we weren't expecting you on board. Is everything all right?" "Everything is fine, Marcus," Eleanor said, using the captain's first name. "But I need you to monitor cabin 402. Do not intervene yet. Document everything. Every complaint, every insult, every demand. I want a log." "Understood, ma'am. And your safety." "I'm fine. They think I'm powerless. Let them keep thinking that." "Very good, ma'am. I will inform the head waiter too. Note the table interactions as well." "Thank you, Marcus. I'll be in touch." She hung up and flushed the toilet to mask the sound. When she came out, Linda was sitting on the bed, filing her nails. Finally, Linda said, "Hurry up. We're going to the buffet. And you're paying for the drinks. Our room card doesn't have the premium package." "I have cash," Eleanor said. "Good. Let's go." The main buffet on Deck 9 was a sprawling expanse of food. Carving stations, seafood towers, dessert islands. It was designed to overwhelm the senses. For Eleanor, it was a test of operational efficiency. She watched the flow of traffic, the replenishment of trays, the cleanliness of the tables. For Linda and Robert, it was a hunting ground. "Look at this," Robert said, piling his plate with crab legs. "All you can eat. We're going to get our money's worth." "Don't take the cheap stuff," Linda instructed him. "Go for the lobster. And make sure it's hot." They found a table near the window. Eleanor sat with her back to the view, holding a plate with a simple salad and a piece of grilled chicken. "Is that all you're eating?" Linda asked, wrinkling her nose. "You need to keep your strength up. You look frail." "I'm eating what I want," Eleanor said. "Suit yourself. More for us." A waiter approached the table. It was Terrell, a young man Eleanor recognized from her previous inspections. He was training to be a head waiter. "Can I get you anything else?" Terrell asked. "Yes," Linda said without looking up. "This water is lukewarm. I want ice water. And not from the tap. Bottled. Sparkling." "Certainly, ma'am," Terrell said. "And bring us the wine list," Robert added. "The real one. Not the house swill." Terrell hesitated. "Sir, the premium wine list is available for an additional charge." "We know," Robert said, glancing at Eleanor. "Put it on her tab." He pointed at Eleanor. Eleanor looked at Terrell. "I don't have a room tab linked to premium services, Terrell." "You know that." Terrell's eyes widened slightly. He recognized her voice, though he had never seen her face to face in this context. He remembered the briefing from the captain. "Poseidon 1 is on board. Incognito. Asterisk. I apologize, ma'am," Terrell said smoothly. "I will bring the water." "He's slow," Linda muttered as Terrell walked away. "Probably new. They hire anyone these days." "He's doing his best," Eleanor said. "Stop defending them, Mom," Linda snapped. "It's embarrassing. You sound like one of them." "I sound like someone who works for a living," Eleanor said. Linda laughed. "You work? Mom, you haven't worked in 20 years. You live off Dad's insurance and our generosity." Eleanor took a sip of her water. "Is that what you tell people?" "It's the truth, isn't it?" Robert asked, joining in. "You don't have a job. You sit at home. We're the ones out there grinding. Building equity. Creating value." "Value," Eleanor repeated. "Yes. That's important." "Exactly," Linda said. "Which is why you need to listen to us about the house. When we get back, we're talking about the sale." "The sale?" Eleanor asked, though she knew what was coming. "The house in Connecticut," Robert said. "It's too big. Too much maintenance. You could fall. Break a hip. Who would find you?" "We've found a place," Linda said, her voice softening into a fake sweetness. "A lovely assisted living community in Florida. Sunny. Warm. Full of people your age. You'd love it." "And the proceeds from the house?" Eleanor asked. Well, obviously, we'd manage that for you, Robert said. You're not fit to handle finances anymore. We'd invest it. Keep it safe. Maybe use some of it to pay off our mortgage. It's what family does, right? We take care of each other. They weren't just planning to downgrade her life, they were planning to strip her of her independence, her home, and her dignity, all under the guise of care. And they were doing it in public, at a dinner table, as if it were a casual business transaction. Eleanor looked around the dining room. Other guests were glancing over, whispering behind their napkins. The humiliation burned her cheeks, but beneath the shame, a spark of anger began to ignite. It wasn't the hot, reactive anger of before. It was cold, calculated, and deep. I need some air, Eleanor said, standing up slowly. Sit down, Linda ordered. We aren't finished with you. Yes, you are, Eleanor replied, picking up her cane. Enjoy your dinner. I'll see you tomorrow. As she walked away, she heard Linda's voice rise behind her. Don't think you can just walk away. We're not done discussing your future. You're going to sign the papers when we get back, whether you like it or not. Eleanor didn't turn back. She walked out onto the promenade deck, the cool sea breeze hitting her face. The ocean stretched out endlessly, dark and powerful under the moonlight. She leaned against the railing, closing her eyes. They don't know, she whispered to the waves. They have no idea. Eleanor didn't go back to her cabin. Instead, she took the service elevator to deck 1. The crew areas were strictly off-limits to passengers, but her keycard beeped green. The hallway was narrow, lined with crew cabins. She knocked on a door marked security office. It opened immediately. A man in a dark uniform stood there. Chief Security Officer Davis. Ma'am, he said, stepping back to let her in. Captain Thorne said you might visit. The office was small, filled with monitors showing various parts of the ship. Show me cabin 402, Eleanor said. Davis switched the screen. It showed the hallway outside her cabin. Nothing unusual. Audio? Eleanor asked. We don't record audio in hallways due to privacy laws, ma'am. But we have logs from the staff. Davis handed her a clipboard. Complaints logged against Mr. and Mrs. Henderson in the last 6 hours. Eleanor scanned the list. Asterisk 1400 housekeeping, yelled at for dust on porthole. Asterisk. Asterisk 1430 room service, threatened with negative review for cold soup. Asterisk. Asterisk 1515 front desk, demanded upgrade, used abusive language. Asterisk. Asterisk 1600 buffet, refused to pay for premium wine, blamed mother. Asterisk. It's worse than I thought, Eleanor said. They believe you are weak, Davis said. They think you won't report them. They think I'm nobody, Eleanor corrected. That's their mistake. She looked at the monitors. She saw Linda walking down the hallway on deck 5, talking on her phone. Put that on audio, Eleanor said. Davis hesitated. Ma'am, that's a public area. But, for you. He switched the feed. Linda's voice came through the speaker, clear as day. No, he doesn't know yet. We're waiting until the end of the trip. Once she signs the power of attorney, the house is ours. The old bat won't know what hit her. Yeah, the cruise is annoying, but it's worth it to keep her happy until the paperwork is done. What? No, we're not putting her in a home immediately. Maybe after the sale. Depends on how much we get for the place. Yeah, love you too. She hung up. Eleanor felt a chill run down her spine. It wasn't just greed. It was premeditated fraud. They were planning to steal her identity, her assets, her life. Record that, Eleanor said. Save it. And get me a transcript. Done, Davis said. Good. Now, I have a request. Tomorrow, during the captain's gala, I want everything prepared. But not yet. First, I want them to feel safe. I want them to think they've won. You want to lure them in, Davis said. Exactly. A moth to the flame. Make them feel special. Give them exactly what they think they deserve. And then, pull the rug. As you wish, ma'am. Eleanor turned to leave. Oh, and Davis. Yes, ma'am. Send a bottle of champagne to cabin 402. From the captain. Tell them it's an apology for the inconvenience. Davis smiled. A peace offering. A trap, Eleanor said. Sweeten the poison. The next morning, Eleanor woke up early. The ship was moving gently, the rhythm of the engines a comforting hum. She dressed carefully. Today, she wore a simple but elegant pearl necklace, a gift from Arthur. She went to the dining room for breakfast. Linda and Robert were already there. They looked refreshed, the champagne from the night before having smoothed their tempers. "Mom," Linda said, waving her over. "Sit. We need to talk." Eleanor sat. "Good morning." "Look," Robert said, sliding a folder across the table. "We had our lawyer draw these up. Just routine stuff. Power of attorney, healthcare proxy. In case something happens to you on the trip. You know, seasickness, falls, whatever." Eleanor looked at the folder. She didn't touch it. "On a cruise ship. Better safe than sorry," Linda said. "Sign it. We'll witness it. The ship's doctor can notarize it." "I'd like to read it first," Eleanor said. "There's nothing to read," Robert said impatiently. "It's standard. Just sign, Mom. Don't make this difficult." "I never make things difficult," Eleanor said. "But I don't sign documents I haven't read." Linda's eyes narrowed. "You're being suspicious." "Why? What are you hiding?" "Nothing. I'm just careful." "You're being difficult," Linda hissed. "We're trying to help you. Why do you fight us at every turn?" "Because you're not helping me, Linda. You're helping yourselves." The table went silent. A waiter passing by slowed down, sensing the tension. "What did you say?" Robert asked, his voice low. "I said," Eleanor repeated, louder this time, "that you are not helping me. You were planning to take my house. You were planning to put me in a home. I heard you on the phone last night, Linda." Linda's face went pale, then red. "You were spying on me." "I was walking on the deck," Eleanor said. "Your voice carries. You're lying." Linda stood up. "You're trying to make us look bad. You're senile. You're imagining things." "Am I?" Eleanor asked. "Then explain the call." "Robert." Linda turned to her husband. "She's accusing us of stealing. Do something." Robert stood up, looming over Eleanor. "Listen to me, old woman. You sign these papers, or you're off this ship. We'll drop you at the next port. You have no money, no ticket. You'll be stranded." "Will I?" Eleanor asked calmly. "Yes." Robert shouted. "You're dependent on us. Don't forget that." The entire dining room was watching now. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Eleanor stood up slowly. She didn't tremble. She didn't cower. She looked Robert in the eye. "You think I'm dependent," she said. "You think I'm stranded." She picked up her cane. "Meet me at the captain's gala tonight. 8 p.m. Main dining room. Wear your best clothes. You'll want to look presentable for what's coming." "What's coming?" Linda demanded. "Justice," Eleanor said. She turned and walked away. She felt their eyes on her back, burning with hatred. But she also felt something else. Freedom. Throughout the day, Eleanor avoided them. She spent time in the library, reading. She walked the decks. She spoke with the staff. She stopped by the housekeeping station. Maria was there, folding towels. "Maria," Eleanor said. Maria looked up, startled. "Ma'am, are you in trouble? Did they yell at you again?" "No, Maria. I'm fine. I wanted to thank you for your patience." Maria's eyes filled with tears. "No one ever thanks us. They just complain." "You are the heart of this ship," Eleanor said. "Don't let them make you feel small." "I try, ma'am. But it's hard." "I know." Eleanor reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. "This is for you. A bonus. From me." Maria took the envelope. "Ma'am, I can't." "Take it. You earned it." Maria hugged her. It was the first genuine human contact Eleanor had felt in years. "Thank you," Maria whispered. "Enjoy the rest of your shift," Eleanor said. She continued her walk. She stopped at the bridge. Captain Thorne was there. "Everything is ready, ma'am," he said. "The announcement is cued. The security team is standing by. The documents are prepared." "Good," Eleanor said. "And the guests? They are excited. They love the mystery. The owner's appearance is the talk of the ship. Let them talk." Eleanor looked out at the ocean. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. "Tomorrow," she said, "everything changes." The main dining room had been transformed. White flowers adorned every table. Crystal glasses caught the light of the chandeliers. A string quartet played Vivaldi in the corner. Eleanor arrived early. She sat at a table near the back, obscured by a large floral arrangement. She wanted to watch them arrive. At 7:55 p.m., Linda and Robert entered. They were dressed to the nines. Linda in a sequined gown, Robert in a tuxedo. They looked like royalty. They scanned the room, looking for the VIP table. A hostess guided them to the head table, right next to the podium where Captain Thorne stood. "Best seat in the house," Robert whispered to Linda. "See, we're important." Linda smiled, waving to a few people who were looking at them. They thought the attention was for them. At 8 p.m., the lights dimmed. Captain Thorne stepped up to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he boomed. "Welcome to the Captain's Gala." The room fell silent. "Tonight, we celebrate the spirit of the ocean. But we also celebrate the people who make voyages like this possible." Linda leaned over to Robert. "Here it comes. The apology. Many of you know the Majesty Cruise Line," the captain continued. "But few know the story of the woman who built it." Linda frowned. What is he talking about? A woman who worked 18-hour days. Who scrubbed decks. Who negotiated contracts. Who never forgot the value of hard work. Robert looked around, confused. Is he talking about someone else? "This ship, the Ocean Majesty, and the entire fleet, belongs to one person," the captain declared. He pointed his finger directly at the back of the room. "Please welcome the founder, CEO, and sole owner of Poseidon Ventures, Mrs. Eleanor Vance." The spotlight swung around. It hit Eleanor. She stood up. The applause started slowly, then erupted into a roar. The crew, who had been waiting for this moment, cheered the loudest. Linda and Robert stood frozen at the VIP table. Their faces drained of color. Linda's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Robert's hands trembled at his sides. Eleanor walked slowly toward the head table, the crowd parting for her. When she reached Linda and Robert, she stopped. "Mom," Linda whispered, her voice shaking. Is this a joke?" "No joke, Linda," Eleanor said, her voice clear and strong, amplified by the microphone the captain handed her. "I own this ship. I own the hotel chain you stayed at last year. I own the investment firm that holds your mortgage. I own everything you thought you were entitled to. But, you're poor," Robert stammered. "You live in that old house. You drive a 10-year-old car. I live simply because I choose to," Eleanor replied. "Unlike you, who live beyond your means because you lack discipline. And, unlike you, I never needed to pretend to be someone I'm not." Linda's face twisted into a mask of desperation. "Mom, we didn't know. If we knew, we would have treated you differently. We love you. We're family. You told me I was baggage," Eleanor said calmly. "You told me I was irrelevant. You planned to put me in a home and steal my house. Did you think I wouldn't hear you? It was just stress." Linda cried, tears streaming down her face. "We were joking. You know how Robert is, he's always joking." "I heard every word," Eleanor said. "And I made my decision." She turned to Captain Thorne. "Captain, please escort Mr. and Mrs. Henderson to their cabin. They will be disembarking at the next port, Nassau. Their tickets are revoked. All charges incurred on this trip, including the cost of their return flight, will be billed to their personal credit card. They are no longer guests of the Majesty Line." "You can't do that," Robert shouted, finding his voice. "We paid for this trip." "You paid for 2 tickets," Eleanor corrected. "I paid for the third. And since I am the owner, I have the right to revoke passage for anyone who violates the code of conduct. And treating the owner with disrespect is a severe violation." "Mom, please," Linda sobbed, reaching out to grab Eleanor's arm. "Don't do this. We need this. What about the house? What about our mortgage?" "The house is mine," Eleanor said firmly. "And as of this morning, I have instructed my lawyers to transfer the deed into a trust that you cannot access. You will not inherit a penny from me, Linda. You made your bed when you chose greed over love. Now you must lie in it." She turned her back on them. The sound of their cries faded behind her as the security crew gently but firmly guided them away from the table. The applause resumed, louder this time, a testament to justice served. The ship docked in Nassau 2 days later. The sun was bright, the water turquoise. It was a beautiful day for a vacation. For Linda and Robert, it was a nightmare. Eleanor watched from the balcony of her new suite, the Grand Owner's suite, which she had moved into after the reveal. She saw them being escorted off the ship. They had only the clothes on their backs. Their luggage had been left in cabin 402, which was now locked. Robert was shouting at the security guards. Linda was crying into her phone, presumably calling a lawyer or a friend. Eleanor felt no joy in their pain. She felt only relief. The weight was gone. Her phone rang. It was her personal lawyer, Mr. Sterling. "Ma'am," he said, "the documents have been filed. The trust is active. They cannot touch the house." "Good," Eleanor said. "And the mortgage?" "I've called in the note," Sterling said. "Since they are in default on the personal loans they took against your name, which they didn't know you knew about, the bank is foreclosing. They'll lose the house in Connecticut too." Eleanor paused. "That's severe. They tried to steal your home, ma'am. They tried to declare you incompetent." "I'd say it's proportional." "You're right," Eleanor said. "Thank you, James. Are you okay, ma'am?" "I will be," Eleanor said. "I think I'll stay on the ship for another week. Maybe sail to Greece. Enjoy yourself, ma'am. You've earned it." That night, Eleanor dined alone in the VIP section. The table was set for one. It felt strange. For so many years, she had defined herself by her relationships. Wife, mother, grandmother. Now, she was just Eleanor. The waiter, Terrell, approached. "Would you like wine, ma'am?" "Yes," Eleanor said. "The vintage Cabernet. The best you have." "Certainly." He poured the glass. Eleanor took a sip. It was rich, complex, with notes of oak and berry. "Terrell," she said. "Yes, ma'am. You did well during the dinner. You didn't give us away. I knew who you were, ma'am. Captain's orders. Still, you kept your composure." "Thank you, ma'am. Take the rest of the night off," Eleanor said. "With pay." Terrell smiled. "Thank you, ma'am. That means a lot." He walked away. Eleanor watched him go. She realized something. She had staff who respected her. She had a crew who cheered for her. She had a legacy that mattered. She didn't need Linda to feel valuable. She didn't need Robert to feel powerful. She raised her glass to the empty chair across from her. "To you, Arthur," she whispered. "You were right. Money changes people, but integrity sets you free." 3 days later, Eleanor received a call. It was Linda. "Mom," Linda's voice was small, stripped of its usual arrogance. "We're in a hotel in Nassau. It's not nice. We don't have money for the flight home." Eleanor sat on the balcony, watching the sunset. "I'm sorry to hear that." "Please," Linda begged. "Send us the fare. Just the fare. We'll pay you back." "No, you won't," Eleanor said. "And I won't. But we're your family. Family protects each other, Linda. You tried to destroy me. There is a line. You crossed it. We made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. Stealing your mother's identity is not a mistake. It's a crime. We won't press charges," Eleanor continued. "That is my only mercy. But do not contact me again. Do not come to my house. Do not call my office. If you do, I will involve the police. Mom, please. Goodbye, Linda." Eleanor hung up. She didn't cry. She felt a tear slip down her cheek, but she wiped it away. She picked up the ship's brochure. "Next stop, Santorini. Asterisk." She smiled. "Book me a suite," she told the concierge who had appeared at her elbow. "And send a ticket to my friend, Sarah. She's been working too hard." "Which Sarah, ma'am?" "The one from the vineyard." "No, wait. The one from the housekeeping staff." "Maria." "Very good, ma'am." Eleanor looked out at the horizon. The sea was calm. The sky was clear. She was alone. But for the first time in 5 years, she was not lonely. 6 months later, Eleanor returned to Connecticut. The house was different. She had renovated it, not to sell, but to live. She opened the library to the community. She started a scholarship fund for the children of her staff. Linda and Robert had filed for bankruptcy. They moved into a small apartment in Ohio. They never tried to contact her again. Eleanor didn't miss them. She missed the idea of them. The daughter she thought she had. But that daughter didn't exist. She sat in her garden. The roses were blooming. Her phone buzzed. A message from Maria. "Thank you for the trip, ma'am. My son is starting college next year. Because of your scholarship." Asterisk. Eleanor smiled. "You are welcome, Maria. He will do great." Asterisk. She put the phone down. She picked up her book. The silence of the house was no longer heavy. It was peaceful. She had lost a daughter that day on the ship. But she had found herself. And that was a trade worth making. Eleanor walked into the boardroom of Poseidon Ventures. The long mahogany table was surrounded by men in suits. They stood as she entered. "Please, sit," she said. She took her seat at the head of the table. "We have the quarterly reports," the CFO said. "Profits are up 15%. "Good," Eleanor said. "But profits aren't everything." She looked around the table. "We are launching a new initiative. The Vance Standard. Every staff member on every ship will receive a living wage, healthcare, and education benefits. No exceptions." The CFO hesitated. "Ma'am, that will cut into the margins." "Then we raise the prices," Eleanor said. "People will pay for quality. And they will pay for integrity. No one will object." A director asked. "Anyone who objects," Eleanor said, her eyes hard, "can find another company." Silence. "Motion passed," Eleanor said. "Next item." She ran the meeting with precision. She was sharper than she had been in years. The weight of the family drama had dulled her, but now she was focused. After the meeting, Captain Thorne waited for her. "The crew loves the new benefits, ma'am," he said. "Good," Eleanor said. "They are the backbone of this company." "And you?" Thorne asked. "How are you?" "I'm good, Marcus. I'm taking a trip next month. Private charter. Just me." "Where to?" "Antarctica," Eleanor said. "I've always wanted to see the ice." Thorne smiled. "I'll arrange it. Thank you." Eleanor walked out of the building. The air was crisp. She got into her car. It was still the 10-year-old sedan. She hadn't bought a new one. She didn't need to. She drove home. The house was waiting. She walked inside. "I'm home," she said to the silence. And the silence answered, "Welcome back." 1 year after the cruise, there was a knock on the door. Eleanor wasn't expecting anyone. She opened it to find a young man standing there. He looked familiar. "Can I help you?" she asked. "Mrs. Vance?" he asked. "My name is David. David Henderson." Eleanor's heart skipped a beat. "Linda's brother." "No, Linda was an only child." "Robert's brother. Robert's nephew," the young man explained. I heard what happened. On the cruise." Eleanor stiffened. "And I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for what they did to you." They talked about it at family reunions. Bragged about it, mostly. Until they lost everything. "What do you want, David?" "I'm studying hospitality management," he said. "I want to work for you. Not because of who I am. But because I want to learn from the best. I know who you are. I know what you built." Eleanor looked at him. He was young, eager. No entitlement in his eyes. "Send me your resume," Eleanor said. "If you're qualified, you'll get an interview. Like everyone else." "Thank you, Mrs. Vance." "Don't thank me. Work hard." He left. Eleanor closed the door. Family. It wasn't about blood. It was about values. She had a new family now. The staff. The crew. The people who worked hard and respected others. That was enough. Eleanor stood in front of the mirror in her bedroom. She looked at her reflection. The wrinkles were deeper. The hair was grayer. But the eyes were brighter. She touched the pearl necklace. "Arthur," she said. "I did it. I protected us." She imagined his smile. "You always were the strong one, Ellie." Asterisk. She smiled back. She turned off the light. Tomorrow was a new day. A new voyage. And she was the captain. The ship sailed into the sunset. The wake trailed behind, white foam against the dark water. Eleanor stood on the bridge. Captain Thorne stood beside her. "Course set, ma'am?" he asked. "West," Eleanor said. "Always west." "West it is." The engines hummed. The ship moved forward. Eleanor Vance was no longer a victim. She was a force. And the ocean bowed to her. The heat in Nassau was oppressive, a thick blanket of humidity that clung to the skin like wet wool. Linda Henderson stood on the dock, the salty breeze doing nothing to cool the fire of humiliation burning in her chest. Behind her, the ocean majesty loomed like a white fortress, its engines humming a low, dismissive note as it prepared to depart. Robert paced beside her, his tuxedo jacket discarded on a nearby bench, his tie loosened and sweaty around his neck. He was on the phone, his voice rising with every passing second. "No, I don't care what the policy is. We are passengers. We were kicked off. No, you don't understand. My mother-in-law owns the ship. Hello, hello. He slammed the phone down. They hung up on me. Linda stared at the gangway. Security guards stood at the bottom, arms crossed, watching them like hawks. They weren't allowed back on. Their luggage was still in cabin 402, sealed away. We need to get to the airport, Linda said, her voice trembling. We need to get home. Home. Robert laughed, a bitter, jagged sound. What home? Your mother said she called in the mortgage. She said the bank is foreclosing. She's bluffing, Linda said, though her confidence was wavering. She's an old woman. She's confused. She can't just take everything. She just did, Linda. Robert shouted, drawing looks from passing tourists. She owns the ship. She owns the bank. Did you not hear the captain? She owns everything. Linda flinched. The reality was finally sinking in, heavy and brutal. For years, she had treated her mother like a burden, a relic of a past she wanted to forget. She had whispered about her senility, plotted over her assets, and mocked her simplicity. And all the while, Eleanor had been sitting on a throne of gold, watching them dig their own grave. We need a lawyer, Linda said, pulling her phone out. We need to sue her. Undue influence. Coercion. She's not mentally fit. Who's going to believe us? Robert asked, sinking onto the bench. We got kicked off a ship in front of hundreds of people. There were videos, Linda. People were recording. By tomorrow, this will be all over the news. Linda's blood ran cold. She opened her social media app. Her hand shook as she typed in her own name. #Henderson Cruise Scandal * was already trending. There were videos, grainy footage from the dining room, clear audio from the deck, photos of them being escorted off by security. The comments were ruthless. Entitled much. *. Poor mom stood up to them. *. Hope they starve. *. Linda dropped the phone as if it were burning her. They're laughing at us. Robert put his head in his hands. We have no money for a hotel. Our cards were declined at the port shop when I tried to buy water. Linda looked around the bustling port. Cruise ships were docking, disgorging thousands of happy tourists. Families laughed, children ran with ice cream, couples held hands. Everyone was moving forward, toward adventure. She and Robert were stuck, anchored in the wreckage of their own making. We walk, Linda said, picking up her purse. The airport is 5 miles away. We walk. In these shoes. Robert looked at his polished leather loafers. In these shoes, Linda snapped. Unless you want to stay here and beg. They began to walk. The sun beat down on them. Within an hour, Robert's feet were blistered. Linda's dress was stained with sweat. They looked nothing like the elite couple who had boarded the ship 2 days ago. They looked like refugees. As they walked, Linda's mind raced. She couldn't let this stand. Eleanor had humiliated her. She had stripped her of her inheritance. But Eleanor was 74. She wouldn't live forever. We wait, Linda whispered to herself. We wait until she's gone. The trust, there has to be a loophole. There's always a loophole. But for now, they had to survive the night. The Ocean Majesty sailed on, cutting through the turquoise waters with effortless grace. Eleanor stood on the bridge, watching the horizon. The incident in Nassau was behind them, but the ripple effects were just beginning. Captain Thorne approached her quietly. Ma'am, we received a communication from the Port Authority in Nassau. They're asking for clarification on the disembarkation. Tell them the truth, Eleanor said. Guests were removed for violation of conduct codes. Harassment of staff. Attempted fraud. It might lead to legal complications, Thorne warned. Let it, Eleanor said. I have nothing to hide. She turned away from the window. How is Maria? She's resting, Thorne said. She was quite shaken by the confrontation in the dining room. But the bonus you gave her, it helped. Double it, Eleanor said. And offer her a position at the corporate office if she wants it. She has a good eye for detail. I'll pass the message along. Eleanor walked back to her suite. The Grand Owner's suite was spacious, filled with light and art. But it felt empty. She poured herself a glass of water and sat on the sofa. Her phone buzzed. It was her lawyer, James Sterling. Eleanor, he said when she answered. They're already moving. Linda filed an emergency petition in Connecticut. She's claiming you're incompetent. She's trying to freeze the trust assets. Eleanor sighed. I expected this. She's using the cruise incident as proof, Sterling continued. She says you were delusional, that you hallucinated owning the ship. She's claiming the reveal was a staged performance. Staged. Eleanor chuckled dryly. Let her try to prove that. We need to prepare a medical evaluation, Sterling said. Independent. Someone unimpeachable. And we need to gather the staff testimonies. The videos from the ship. Do whatever is necessary, James, Eleanor said. I want this settled quickly. I don't want her poisoning the well any further. And the house? Sterling asked. The foreclosure notice was sent this morning. Let it proceed, Eleanor said. They need to feel the loss. Maybe then they'll learn. There's one more thing, Sterling hesitated. Robert has contacted some reporters. He's trying to sell his side of the story. Abandoned by wealthy mother. He's playing the victim. Eleanor's grip on the phone tightened. Let him talk. The truth has a way of surfacing. She hung up and looked around the room. The silence was back. But this time, it wasn't the silence of grief. It was the silence of strategy. They wanted a war. She had built an empire. She knew how to fight. Back in Connecticut, the house was surrounded. By the time Eleanor returned from the cruise a week later, cameras were lined up outside her gate. Reporters shouted questions as her car drove through. Mrs. Vance, is it true you disinherited your daughter? Asterisk. Did you really own the cruise line? Asterisk. How does it feel to be estranged? Asterisk. Eleanor kept the windows up. She didn't look at them. She had instructed her security team to keep the press at bay. Inside, the house was just as she had left it. Dusty, quiet, waiting. She walked through the halls, her cane tapping on the hardwood. Everything was familiar, yet different. She was different. She went to the library and sat at her desk. Her computer was waiting. Emails had piled up. Condolences, support, business inquiries, threats. She opened the business inquiries. There was a proposal from a rival cruise line, Oceanic Global, wanting to merge. They had heard about the incident and thought she was vulnerable. Dear Mrs. Vance, asterisk the email read. Given the recent family instability, we propose a partnership that would secure your assets. Asterisk. Eleanor deleted the email. They thought she was weak. They thought the family drama made her susceptible to a takeover. She opened a new document. Project Horizon. Asterisk. She began to type. She wasn't going to defend herself. She was going to expand. If they wanted to attack her legacy, she would make it too big to fail. Her phone rang. It was Sarah, her vineyard manager from the second-story idea that had merged into her portfolio years ago. Eleanor. Sarah's voice was warm. I saw the news. Are you okay? I'm fine, Sarah. Just tired. Those people, they're saying terrible things. Let them talk, Eleanor said. How are the vines? Beautiful, Sarah said. Harvest is coming early. We need you here, Eleanor. The staff is worried. They think you're going to sell. I'm not selling, Eleanor said firmly. Tell them nothing changes. In fact, tell them to expect a bonus this year. Really, they're the family that matters. After hanging up, Eleanor leaned back. She looked at the photograph of Arthur again. I'm holding the line, Arthur, she whispered. But it's hard. 3 weeks later, the courtroom was packed. The case of Henderson versus Vance had become a local sensation. Linda sat on one side, looking frayed. Her designer clothes were wrinkled, her hair unkempt. The stress was showing. Robert sat beside her, looking sullen. Eleanor sat on the other side, composed in a navy suit, her posture straight. James Sterling sat next to her, organizing files. The judge, Honorable Margaret Reynolds, entered the room. Everyone stood. We are here to discuss the petition for competency evaluation, Judge Reynolds said. Mrs. Henderson claims her mother is unfit to manage her assets. Linda's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, my client has evidence of erratic behavior. Disinheriting family without cause. Public outbursts on a cruise ship. These are signs of dementia. James Sterling stood. Your Honor, we have medical records from Dr. Evans, who has treated Mrs. Vance for 10 years. He confirms she is fully competent. We also have video evidence from the cruise ship. Play it, the judge said. The screen behind the bench lit up. The video from the captain's gala played. Eleanor's voice rang out clear and strong. I own this ship. You plan to put me in a home and steal my house. Asterisk. Then, the audio from the deck played. Linda's voice, once she signs the power of attorney, the house is ours. The old bat won't know what hit her. Asterisk. The courtroom went silent. Linda buried her face in her hands. Robert stared at the table. Is this authentic? The judge asked. Verified by the ship's security chief, Sterling said. The judge looked at Linda. Mrs. Henderson, this evidence suggests intent to commit fraud against your mother. Not incompetence on her part. She's manipulating them, Linda cried, standing up. She's rich. She can buy anyone. Order. The judge banged the gavel. Mrs. Henderson, sit down. Based on this evidence, the petition for competency is denied. Furthermore, I am referring this matter to the district attorney for investigation into potential elder abuse and fraud. Linda gasped. No, you can't. Case dismissed, the judge said. Court adjourned. Eleanor stood up slowly. She looked at Linda. For a moment, their eyes met. There was no love there. Only recognition of a battle lost. I didn't want it to come to this, Linda, Eleanor said quietly. You ruined me, Linda whispered. No, Linda, Eleanor said. You did that yourself. Eleanor turned and walked out of the courtroom. The flashbulbs popped outside, but she didn't flinch. She had won the battle. But the war for her peace was just beginning. Back at the house, Eleanor sat in the dining room. The table was set for one. She had hired a new housekeeper, a kind woman named Mrs. Gable, who didn't ask questions and didn't judge. Dinner was served. Roast chicken, vegetables, a glass of wine. Eleanor ate slowly. She thought about Linda's face in the courtroom. The hatred. It hurt more than she wanted to admit. She was a mother, after all. Biologically, Linda was part of her. Cutting her off felt like amputating a limb. But a gangrenous limb had to be removed to save the body. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. We know where you live. You think you're safe. You're just a lonely old woman. Asterisk. Eleanor stared at the message. Threats. It was escalating. She called security. Davis. It's Eleanor. Ma'am, is everything okay? I received a threat, she said. Trace the number. Done, Davis said. It's a burner phone, but the location pinged near your estate. Increase surveillance, Eleanor ordered. And check the perimeter. Will do, ma'am. She hung up. They were desperate. Desperate people did dangerous things. She walked to the window. The shadows of the trees lengthened as the sun set. She felt a chill. She wasn't afraid of dying. She was afraid of dying without having made a difference. Without having protected what mattered. She went to her safe and took out a document. The Vance Foundation. Asterisk. She had been planning this for years. A charity to support elderly women who had been abandoned by their families. To help them find dignity, housing, and purpose. Maybe this is the legacy, she said to herself. Not the ships. Not the money. But the help. She began to draft the charter. She would work late into the night. Work was the only thing that kept the darkness at bay. A month later, Eleanor was back in the office. The Vance Foundation was launched, and the press had shifted focus from her family drama to her philanthropy. But the business world was circling. Julian Thorne, CEO of Oceanic Global, requested a meeting. He was a shark in a tailored suit, known for hostile takeovers. Eleanor, he said, shaking her hand. You look well. Julian, she replied. To what do I owe the pleasure? Your stock is fluctuating, he said, sitting down. The family scandal, it worries investors. They want stability. My stock is fine, Eleanor said. Profits are up. Perception is reality, Julian smiled. I'm offering to buy a controlling share. 51%. You stay on as figurehead. I handle the operations. And why would I do that? Because you're tired, he said. You're fighting your family, the press, the regulators. Let me take the burden. You can retire. Enjoy your money. Eleanor leaned forward. I didn't build this company to retire. I built it to serve. You want to buy me out to strip the assets. I know your reputation, Julian. Julian's smile faded. Reputations are made of paper. Money is made of steel. Not my money, Eleanor said. My money is made of people. And they loyalty to me. We'll see, Julian said, standing up. Hostile takeovers are messy, Eleanor. Don't say I didn't warn you. He left. Eleanor watched him go. James Sterling entered. He's going to try to buy shares on the open market. Drive the price up, then squeeze us. Let him try, Eleanor said. Activate the poison pill clause. The one in the bylaws. Yes. If anyone acquires more than 20% without board approval, all shares dilute automatically. It makes the company worthless to them. Brilliant, Sterling said. But he might try to challenge it in court. Let him, Eleanor said. I have the best lawyers. And I have the truth. She walked to the window. The city skyline glittered. They think I'm weak because I'm old, she said. They think I'm soft because I'm a woman. They're wrong. Maria stood in the corporate office, nervously adjusting her uniform. She had never been in a building this tall. The carpet was thick, the air conditioned to perfection. Eleanor welcomed her warmly. Please, sit, Maria. Thank you, Mrs. Vance, Maria said. I still can't believe this. Me, in the office. You have a talent for management, Eleanor said. I saw how you handled the staff on the ship. You protected them. You kept morale up. They were scared, Maria said. Your daughter, she was very mean. I know, Eleanor said. That's why I need you here. We're launching a new training program, the Vance Standard. I want you to lead it. Teach the staff how to handle difficult guests. How to maintain dignity. Maria's eyes widened. Me, teach. Yes, Eleanor said. You know what it's like to be on the other side. That's valuable. Maria smiled, a genuine, radiant smile. I won't let you down, ma'am. I know you won't. After Maria left, Eleanor felt a sense of satisfaction. Helping Linda would have been throwing money into a black hole. Helping Maria was planting a seed that would grow. This was the difference. Linda took. Maria gave. Eleanor made a note to increase the budget for the training program. It was an investment in humanity. 2 months into the conflict with Julian Thorne, things started going wrong. A ship in the Mediterranean had an engine failure. Minor, but costly. A reservation system glitch lost thousands of bookings. A health inspector found a minor violation in the main kitchen. Coincidences. Eleanor didn't believe in coincidences. She called Captain Thorne. Marcus, check the maintenance logs on the Ocean Majesty. There are some discrepancies, Marcus said. Parts were ordered but not installed. Signatures are forged. Who signed them? Someone in the corporate office, Marcus said. Level 4. Procurement. Eleanor's eyes narrowed. Lock the account. Initiate an internal audit. And Marcus. Increase security on the ships. I don't want any accidents. Understood. Eleanor went to the procurement office. The manager, a man named Greg, was sweating when she walked in. Mrs. Vance, he stammered. I wasn't expecting you. Clearly, Eleanor said. Explain the missing parts. Supply chain issues, Greg said. Global shortage. Don't lie to me, Eleanor said softly. I know about Julian Thorne. I know he's paying people to sabotage us. Greg's face went white. I have a family. He threatened them. And I protect them, Eleanor said. If you tell me everything, I will ensure your family is safe. And you will keep your job. If you lie, you will go to prison. Greg hesitated. Then he broke. He wanted me to delay the engine parts. Just for a week. To make the stock drop. Get me the emails, Eleanor said. Everything. Greg nodded frantically. Eleanor walked out. She had the evidence. Now she could counterattack. Eleanor called a press conference. Not in a boardroom, but on the deck of the Ocean Majesty. Reporters gathered, cameras rolling. Eleanor stood at the podium, the ocean behind her. Recently, there have been rumors about the stability of Majesty Cruise Line, she began. Some suggest incompetence. Some suggest sabotage. She held up a folder. I have here evidence of a coordinated attack by Oceanic Global and its CEO, Julian Thorne. Bribes. Forgery. Endangering passengers. The crowd gasped. Flashes went off. We will not tolerate this, Eleanor said. We are filing a lawsuit. And we are launching a new initiative. Safe Seas. Every ship will be equipped with redundant safety systems, exceeding all regulations. Because your safety is not a profit margin. It's a promise. Julian Thorne watched the broadcast from his office. He smashed his glass against the wall. "She's bluffing," he shouted to his assistant. "She doesn't have the proof." "She does, sir," the assistant said quietly. "Greg from procurement leaked the emails." Julian sank into his chair. "She's destroying me." "No, sir," the assistant said. "You destroyed yourself." The lawsuit settled out of court. Julian Thorne resigned from Oceanic Global. The stock plummeted. Majesty Cruise Line's stock soared. Eleanor didn't celebrate. She didn't pop champagne. She went to the vineyard. Sarah met her at the gate. "You did it." "We did it," Eleanor corrected. They walked through the vines. The grapes were ready for harvest. The air smelled of earth and sweetness. Eleanor stopped by a specific vine. The one Arthur had planted the year Linda was born. "It's still growing," she said. "Everything grows," Sarah said. "Even after winter." Eleanor touched the leaves. "I thought I lost everything when Arthur died. But I found more." "Yourself," Sarah said. "Yes," Eleanor said. "Myself." They stood in silence, watching the sun set over the valley. It was a quiet victory. No headlines. No applause. Just the peace of a job well done. A week later, a letter arrived. Handwritten. No return address. Eleanor opened it. "Mom, I saw the news. You look strong. I hope you're happy. We lost the house. Robert left me. I'm staying in a shelter. I don't know what to do. I know I messed up. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. Not for the money, but for hurting you. Asterisk. Linda. Asterisk." Eleanor read the letter 3 times. Her hands trembled slightly. She wanted to call her. She wanted to help. But she remembered the videos. The plans. The cruelty. Forgiveness was possible. Trust was not. She wrote a reply. "Linda, I am sorry you are hurting. I have instructed my lawyer to set up a small allowance for you. Enough for food and rent. Not enough for luxury. You need to learn to stand on your own. Do not contact me again. This is the last help I will give. Asterisk. Mom. Asterisk." She sealed the envelope. It was hard. Harder than any business deal. But it was necessary. She handed it to James Sterling. "Send this." "Are you sure, Eleanor?" he asked. "I'm sure," she said. "She needs to learn. And I need to live." Years passed. The scandal faded from the news. Eleanor became a legend in the industry. The Vance Standard was taught in hospitality schools. Maria was now a vice president. She had transformed the staff culture. Turnover dropped. Satisfaction soared. Eleanor sat in her office, looking at a proposal. A scholarship program for the grandchildren of staff members. "Approve it," she told her assistant. "Ma'am," the assistant said. "There's someone here to see you. A young man. Says his name is David." Eleanor remembered. Robert's nephew. The one who wanted to work. "Send him in." David entered. He looked older, more mature. He wore a suit, but it was modest. "Mrs. Vance," he said. "Thank you for seeing me." "You applied for the management trainee program," Eleanor said. "I did," David said. "I know my family disgraced you. I just want to say, I don't agree with what they did. I want to work hard. Like you." Eleanor studied him. "Why should I hire you?" "Because I have nothing to lose," David said. "And everything to prove." Eleanor smiled slightly. "That's a good answer." She handed him a pen. "Sign here. Start Monday. Don't make me regret this." "I won't," David said. He left. Eleanor felt a sense of continuity. The legacy wasn't just about money. It was about values. And values could be taught. Winter came early. Eleanor caught a cold that lingered. She dismissed it, but then she collapsed during a board meeting. She woke up in the hospital. Captain Thorne was there. "You scared us, ma'am," he said. "What happened?" Eleanor asked, her voice weak. "Heart," he said. "Stress. You need to rest." "I can't rest," Eleanor said. The company is fine," Thorne said. "Maria is running operations. James is handling legal. You need to heal." Eleanor lay back. For the first time, she had to surrender control. It was terrifying. She looked at the IV drip. "I'm not invincible." "No one is," Thorne said. "But you're resilient." She stayed in the hospital for a week. Visitors came. Staff, not family. Flowers, cards, prayers. She realized she was loved. Not for her money, but for who she was. When she was discharged, she went home. The house was warm. Mrs. Gable had lit a fire. Eleanor sat by the fireplace. She picked up a book. She read for an hour. No phone, no emails, just peace. 6 months later, Eleanor decided to write her story. Not the version the press told. The real one. She hired a ghostwriter. They met every week. Why write it? The writer asked. You've already won. Because someone else might need to hear it, Eleanor said. There are mothers out there suffering in silence. Afraid to speak up. Afraid of being alone. What's the message? That you are enough, Eleanor said. Even if your family doesn't see it. Even if you're old. You are enough. The book was titled The Captain's Secret. It became a bestseller. Royalties were donated to the Vance Foundation. Eleanor did a book signing. The line stretched around the block. Women of all ages. Some old, some young. Thank you, one woman said, tears in her eyes. You gave me courage to leave my son. He was stealing from me. I'm glad, Eleanor said. Stay strong. You too, the woman said. Eleanor signed the book. Keep sailing. Eleanor. Asterisk. The story ends where it began. On the ship. Eleanor stood on the bridge of the Ocean Majesty. It was a new ship. The Eleanor Vance. Named by the board without her asking. She looked out at the ocean. It was endless. Captain Thorne stood beside her. Course, ma'am. Forward, Eleanor said. Always forward. The ship moved. The wake trailed behind. Eleanor Vance was no longer just a mother. She was a legend. And the ocean bowed to her. The Vance Foundation for Elder Dignity opened its doors in the heart of Boston, housed in a restored brownstone that smelled of lemon polish and old books. It was not a sterile hospital, nor was it a cold institution. It was a home. Eleanor had insisted on every detail, from the width of the hallways to accommodate wheelchairs to the quality of the mattresses in the bedrooms. On the opening day, Eleanor stood at the podium, her voice slightly weaker than it had been on the ship, but no less commanding. The crowd was a mix of staff, press, and the first residents of the home. This place is not a warehouse for the forgotten, Eleanor announced, her eyes scanning the faces before her. It is a sanctuary for the respected. Every person who walks through these doors has a story. They have built families, worked jobs, loved deeply, and suffered losses. They deserve not just care, but honor. Among the crowd stood a woman named Martha. She was 78, dressed in a worn coat that had seen better decades. She had been living in her car before the foundation found her. Her son had kicked her out after she refused to sign over her pension. She listened to Eleanor's words, and tears streamed down her face. She saw herself in Eleanor's speech. After the ceremony, Eleanor walked through the halls, greeting the residents. When she reached Martha, she stopped. Welcome home, Martha, Eleanor said, taking the woman's hand. They say you paid for all this, Martha whispered, her voice trembling. Why, you don't know us. I know what it is to be alone, Eleanor replied softly. And I know what it is to be treated like a burden. No one should feel that way in their final years. Martha squeezed her hand. You saved me, Mrs. Vance. No, Eleanor said, shaking her head. You saved yourself by having the courage to seek help. I just built the door. Later that evening, Eleanor sat in her office at the foundation. James Sterling, her lawyer, walked in with a file. The endowment is secure, James said. The funds from the book royalties and the ship dividends will keep this place running for 50 years, minimum. Good, Eleanor said, looking out the window at the city lights. And the legal barriers, impenetrable, James confirmed. Linda cannot touch this money. No family member can. It is locked for the residents. Eleanor nodded. She had ensured that her wealth would never again be used to manipulate her. It would serve those who had no voice. This was her true legacy. Not the ships, not the vineyards, but the safety she provided for women like Martha, like herself. She felt a cough tickle her throat. She suppressed it, but James noticed. Are you feeling all right, Eleanor? He asked, concern etching his face. I'm fine, she lied smoothly. Just tired. It was a long day. You need to listen to the doctors, James warned. You've been pushing too hard. There is still work to do, Eleanor said. Rest can wait. But as she walked to her car that night, leaning heavily on her cane, she knew the truth. The engine was winding down. The ship was nearing the port. But she would not stop until the anchor was dropped safely. 6 months after the foundation opened, a black sedan pulled up to the gates of Eleanor's Connecticut estate. It was raining, a cold, dreary downpour that matched the mood of the woman inside the car. Linda Henderson looked out the window. The house looked exactly as it had when she was a child, yet it felt like a fortress she was no longer allowed to enter. She had lost everything. The house in Connecticut was foreclosed. Robert had left her for a younger woman once the money dried up. She was living in a subsidized apartment in Ohio, working a minimum wage job at a retail store. She had watched Eleanor on the news. The foundation, the book, the accolades. Her mother was more famous than ever, celebrated as a hero for the elderly. Linda was mentioned only in footnotes, as the cautionary tale of greed. "I have to try," Linda whispered to herself. "She's my mother. Blood is blood." She got out of the car and walked to the gate. The security camera swiveled to follow her. She pressed the intercom button. "Mom," she called out. "It's Linda. Please, I just want to talk." There was a long silence. Then a voice crackled through the speaker. It wasn't Eleanor. It was Davis, the security chief. "Mrs. Henderson, you are not permitted on the property." "Please," Linda begged, the rain soaking through her coat. "I lost my job. I have nowhere to go. I just need help. Just a little bit." "Mrs. Vance has provided for you," Davis said calmly. "The allowance is deposited monthly. You have shelter. You have food. It's not enough." Linda screamed, her voice breaking. "I'm her daughter. She owns billions. Why is she letting me suffer?" "Because you chose to suffer her," Davis replied. "Please leave, or I will call the police." Linda stood there for a moment, the rain mixing with her tears. She looked up at the second-floor window. She thought she saw a silhouette standing there. Watching. "Mom," she shouted. "I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. Please." The silhouette did not move. The light in the window did not turn on. Linda waited for 10 minutes. Then 20. No one came. No gate opened. No voice called out. Finally, she turned back to her car. She was shivering, her spirit broken anew. She realized then that the bridge wasn't just burned, it was ashes on the wind. Her mother had moved on. The world had moved on. Only Linda was stuck in the past, clinging to a wreckage that no longer existed. She drove away, the taillights disappearing into the gray rain. Inside the house, Eleanor lowered the curtain. She felt a pang in her chest, sharp and sudden. But she did not open the gate. To open it would be to invite the poison back in. She had chosen peace over blood. And she would not undo that choice now. The doctor's office was quiet, too quiet. The ticking of the clock on the wall seemed to amplify the silence between Eleanor and Dr. Evans. Dr. Evans was an older man, kind-eyed, who had treated Eleanor for 20 years. He held a clipboard in his hands, but he wasn't looking at it. He was looking at her. "Eleanor," he said gently. The tests came back. Eleanor sat straight in her chair. "Tell me." "It's your heart," he said. "Congestive failure. It's advanced. The stress of the last year, it has taken a toll." "How long?" Eleanor asked. Her voice was steady, betraying none of the fear coiling in her stomach. Dr. Evans hesitated. "With treatment, rest, and no stress, maybe a year. Maybe 2. Without those things, much less." Eleanor nodded slowly. She looked out the window at the parking lot. A year. It wasn't enough time to build another ship. But it was enough time to finish what she had started. "I want to continue working," she said. "No, drive," Evans said firmly. "You need to scale back. No more board meetings. No more travel. You need to be home." "I can't do that," Eleanor said. "If I stop, the sharks will circle. Julian Thorne is gone, but there are others. My staff needs me. Your staff needs you alive. Drive." Evans countered. "Eleanor, you have built an empire. Let someone else run it." "I will," Eleanor said. "But not yet. Give me 6 months. Let me set the succession plan. Then I will retire." Dr. Evans sighed. He knew he couldn't stop her. Eleanor Vance was a force of nature. 6 months. But you must take it easy. No more crises. No more fights. I promise, Eleanor said. She stood up, gripping her cane. She walked out of the office with her head high. She didn't feel like a dying woman. She felt like a captain steering her ship into the harbor. She had a checklist to complete. And she would not leave anything unfinished. The boardroom was tense. The long mahogany table was surrounded by the top executives of Poseidon Ventures. Eleanor sat at the head, looking paler than usual, but her eyes were sharp. We need to discuss the future, Eleanor said. I will be stepping down as CEO within the year. A murmur went around the table. Some looked worried, others predatory. I have chosen my successor, Eleanor continued. All eyes turned to Maria, who sat quietly near the end of the table. She looked uncomfortable, shifting in her seat. Maria has risen from housekeeping to vice president in 3 years, Eleanor said. She understands the core of this business. She understands that our guests are people, and our staff are family. She will be the next CEO. A director named Mr. Henderson, no relation to Linda, raised his hand. With respect, Mrs. Vance, Maria lacks formal business education. Perhaps someone with an MBA. Maria has something better, Eleanor interrupted. She has integrity, she has loyalty, and she has my trust. Education can be learned, character cannot. She turned to David, Robert's nephew, who was also in the room. David will be chief of operations. He will handle the logistics. Maria will handle the vision. They will report to the board, but the board will report to the foundation. This is unconventional, another director said. It is necessary, Eleanor said. This company is no longer just a business. It is a vehicle for good. If you cannot accept that, there is the door. No one moved. They knew better than to challenge her now. After the meeting, Maria stayed behind. She looked overwhelmed. Mrs. Vance, she said, I don't know if I can do this. It's too big. You already are doing it, Eleanor said, walking over to her. You just didn't have the title. You protect the staff. You protect the guests. That is all the job is. But what if I fail? Maria asked. Then I will have failed you, Eleanor said. But I don't think you will. You have the heart of this company, Maria. Don't let them harden you. Maria nodded, tears in her eyes. I will make you proud. I already am, Eleanor said. She walked out of the boardroom, leaning on David's arm for support. She didn't notice him steadying her. She was thinking about the ocean. She needed to see it one last time. The Eleanor Vance, the newest ship in the fleet, was docked in Miami. It was larger than the Ocean Majesty, more modern, but it carried the same soul. Eleanor stood on the top deck, the wind whipping her hair. She wore a thick coat, and oxygen tubing was discreetly tucked under her collar. Captain Thorne stood beside her. He looked older now, his hair fully gray. She handles well, Eleanor said, patting the railing. Best ship we've ever built, Thorne agreed. Thanks to you. I want to take her out, Eleanor said. Just for a day. To the edge of the horizon. Ma'am, the doctor. Thorne started. The doctor isn't here, Eleanor said. I am. Please, Marcus. One last ride. Thorne looked at her, seeing the plea in her eyes. He nodded. One day. Calm waters. The ship set sail at noon. Eleanor sat in a wheelchair on the bridge, watching the coastline fade. She didn't speak much. She just watched. She remembered the first time she had seen the ocean with Arthur. They had been poor then, eating sandwiches on a public beach. Now she owned the sea, but she would have traded it all for one more day with him. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of violet and gold, Eleanor closed her eyes. It's beautiful, she whispered. It is, Thorne said. Promise me, Eleanor said, opening her eyes. Promise me you won't let them change it. No matter who comes after me. Keep the standards. Keep the dignity. I promise, Thorne said solemnly. On my honor. Good, Eleanor said. She took a deep breath. The air smelled of salt and freedom. Turn her back. I'm ready to go home. The ship turned. Eleanor watched the wake trail behind them, white foam disappearing into the dark water. It was like her life. Moving forward, leaving a mark, but eventually fading. But the ship remained. The mission remained. Back in Connecticut, Eleanor spent her final weeks writing. Not the memoir for the public, but a private letter. She wrote it by hand, her handwriting shaky but legible. She wrote to Maria, lead with kindness, but be firm. Kindness without strength is weakness. Asterisk. She wrote to David, work hard, earn your place. Your uncle's mistakes are not yours, but you must not repeat them. Asterisk. She wrote to James, protect the foundation. It is the heart. Asterisk. And finally, she wrote to Linda. She hadn't sent the previous letter. She wrote a new one. Linda, I am writing this because I want you to know that I do not hate you. Hate is too heavy a burden to carry into the next world. I forgive you, not because what you did was right, but because I need to be free of it. Asterisk. You are my daughter. You will always be a part of me. But love is not just feeling. It is action. And your actions hurt me. I hope one day you find peace. I hope you find a way to be happy without needing to take from others. Asterisk. The allowance will continue. It is not a reward. It is a mother's duty. But do not come to my funeral. It would not be peaceful for either of us. Asterisk. Live well, Linda. Asterisk. Love, Mom. Asterisk. She sealed the envelope and gave it to James. Send this after I am gone. James took the envelope, his hands trembling slightly. Are you sure, Eleanor? I'm sure, she said. Let her have her life. And let me have mine. She leaned back in her chair. The fire was crackling in the hearth. Mrs. Gable had made tea. The house was quiet. I think I'll sleep now, Eleanor said. Rest well, ma'am, James said. Eleanor closed her eyes. She didn't know if she would wake up. And for the first time in her life, she was okay with that. She had finished her work. The ship was docked. The cargo was safe. The crew was ready. Eleanor Vance passed away 3 weeks later, in her sleep. There was no pain, no struggle. Just a gentle slowing of the engine until it stopped. Mrs. Gable found her in the morning. She was sitting in the library, the book still on her lap, the sunlight falling across her face. She looked peaceful, as if she were simply resting between voyages. The news broke quickly. Titan of industry Eleanor Vance dies at 79. The world mourned. Flags were lowered on all Majesty Cruise Line ships. The stock market paused for a moment of silence. But in the house, there was only quiet. James Sterling stood by the phone, coordinating the funeral. Maria was on a plane from Miami. David was driving from the city. And Linda. Linda received the call in her small apartment in Ohio. She sat on the edge of her bed, the phone in her hand. She didn't cry immediately. She just felt numb. The final door had closed. Her mother was gone. The money was gone. The hope of reconciliation was gone. She opened the letter that arrived a day later. She read it twice. Then she began to sob. Not the manipulative tears of the courtroom, but real, guttural sobs of regret. She had lost her mother before she had ever really known her. The funeral was held in the garden of the estate. It was a cloudy day, fitting for the mood. Hundreds of people attended. But notably, there were few business tycoons. No politicians. The front rows were filled with staff. Maria, in a black suit, sat next to Captain Thorne. The housekeepers, the waiters, the engineers, the deckhands. They had flown in from all over the world to pay their respects. Linda stood at the edge of the crowd, behind the security line. She had come, despite the letter. She needed to see. She needed to say goodbye. Security stepped toward her. Mrs. Henderson, you need to leave. Please, Linda whispered. Just let me watch. Davis, the security chief, looked at her. He remembered the videos. He remembered the pain she had caused. But he also saw the grief in her eyes. Stay there, Davis said. Do not move forward. Linda nodded. She watched as the casket was carried. Not by pallbearers in suits, but by 6 members of the ship's crew. Maria, James, Captain Thorne, Sarah, David, and Martha from the Foundation. They lowered the casket into the ground. James read the letter Eleanor had written to the world. I was not a queen. I was a worker. I was not a saint. I was a woman. Remember me not for what I had, but for what I gave. Asterisk. As the dirt was shoveled onto the coffin, Linda turned and walked away. She didn't wait for the reception. She didn't try to talk to anyone. She got into her car and drove back to Ohio. She knew she didn't belong here. Her mother had chosen her family, and it wasn't her. Chapter 39, The Legacy Lives On. 5 years later. The Vance Foundation had expanded to 10 locations across the country. Thousands of elderly women had found safety there. The waiting list was long, but the funding was secure. Maria stood on the bridge of the Eleanor Vance. She was CEO now, and she had changed things. Profits were slightly lower, but staff retention was at 100%. Guest satisfaction was at an all-time high. The Vance standard was industry law. David stood beside her. He had grown into a capable leader, humble and hardworking. He had earned his place, not through blood, but through sweat. "We're approaching Nassau," David said. Maria nodded. "Drop the anchor. Let's visit the memorial." They went ashore. There was a small plaque on the dock where Eleanor had been disembarked those years ago. Asterisk in honor of Eleanor Vance, who stood firm when the tide turned. Asterisk. Tourists stopped to read it. Some took pictures. "She would have liked this," David said. "She would have hated the attention," Maria corrected, smiling. "But she would have liked the safety it represents." They walked back to the ship. The engines hummed. The ship moved forward. In Ohio, Linda worked at a community center. She volunteered there, helping elderly people fill out forms, carrying their groceries. She didn't talk about her past. She didn't talk about her mother. She just worked. One day, an old woman thanked her. "You're very kind, dear. You remind me of someone." "Who?" Linda asked. "A woman I saw on the news once. Mrs. Vance." Linda paused. She smiled, a sad, small smile. "She was a remarkable woman. She changed things," the old woman said. "Yes," Linda said. "She did." Linda went home that night. She looked at the photo of her mother on her shelf. It was the only thing she had kept. "I'm trying, Mom," she whispered. "I'm trying to be better." She didn't know if Eleanor could hear her. But she knew that trying was the only way to honor the memory. The ocean does not remember the ships that sail upon it. It does not care about the owners, the passengers, or the cargo. It simply is. Vast, deep, and eternal. But for those who sail it, the ocean leaves a mark. Eleanor Vance was gone. Her name was on buildings, on ships, on foundations. But her true presence was in the things that remained unseen. In the housekeeper who was treated with respect. In the old woman who had a bed to sleep in. In the daughter who learned too late that love cannot be bought. The Eleanor Vance sailed into the sunset, its lights twinkling against the dark water. It was just one ship among thousands. But it carried a legacy that was heavier than steel and more valuable than gold. Captain Thorne, now retired, sat on his porch in Maine. He watched the boats come in. He thought of Eleanor. He thought of the day on the bridge when she told him to steer west. "Always forward," she had said. He raised his glass to the horizon. "Always forward, ma'am," he whispered. The wind blew from the sea, carrying the scent of salt and freedom. It whispered through the trees, through the houses, through the hearts of those who remembered. The story was over. But the lesson remained. You are worth fighting for. Even if you have to be the one to do the fighting. And sometimes, the family you choose is stronger than the one you're born into.